Minesweeping in Croatia, 20 years after the Yugoslav wars. The tiny southeastern European state is about to become a member of the European Union. But much of the country still looks like this. Croatia will be the first EU country to have experienced a war in the lifetime of the EU. My journey begins in Zagreb. The Croatian capital looks much like other European cities. In the 1990s, I often reported from here during the Croatian struggle for independence in the Yugoslav wars. Now, almost 20 years later, I want to find out how it has changed. A new, young post-war generation has grown up. I meet up with Borna, Matko, Daniel, Jeffrey and Luka. They're all around 19 years old and they're all musicians. Their hard rock band is called We Create, by which they mean their own reality. Borna thinks it's a good thing that Croatia is finally joining the EU.
That is great because we're going to tour on September, so we won't have borders, and that will be great.
I'm not for Croatia to enter the European Union. Because, the price will go up and the paycheck will stay the same.
For sale, a group of activists has put up posters like this one on national monuments all over Zagreb. They fear their country is about to be sold off, mainly to investors from the EU. I accompany the 5 band members to a gig in the countryside, far away from the glamour of the capital, Zagreb. We take the motorway, recently built and easily up to the standards of Western European roads. We're heading south to a place called Karlovac, where the band are due to play at a music festival. This was a frontline town in the war that took place during the 1990s. Right from the outbreak, the residents of Karlovac came under regular Serbian artillery fire. A lot of the damage is still not repaired. The young Zagreb musicians were only just born then.
It's been good. Whoa, let's go!
These young men only know about the war between Serbia and their own country, Croatia, from history books.
It's not really easy to see, everything what was happening like 18 years ago. And, but what can I say? Now everything is okay, that's the main thing, yeah. So, and I really think that it's going to be okay for the next, forever.
They have quite different concerns, such as whether they'll be able to earn a living from their music. When Borna, Luka and the others think about their future after graduation, it doesn't look too good. More than 40% of young Croatians are unemployed, something they have in common with many other young Europeans. Borna says without work experience you can't even get an entry-level job. When we finish college, no one wants us. A lot of companies employ people who've been with them for 20, 30 years already. They retire but keep on working for less money. The companies exploit them and we are completely forgotten about. At least they've got their music. But even during the sound check, there's trouble. A neighbour comes to complain about the noise. It seems to me that conflicts between the war generation and the post-war generation are routine in Croatia. To see how many traces of the war in the 1990s are left, I take a drive along the former front line between Croatia and Serbia. Abandoned villages, desolate landscapes in eastern Croatian Slavonia. Before the war, it was mostly Serbs who lived here. After the Croatian army liberated the occupied region, thousands of Serbs fled. There are a lot of houses for sale. Economically, this region is yet to recover from the war. There is very little work available. The jobs of Marko Pizulek and his colleagues are safe, but also extremely dangerous. They're minesweepers. We drive to a small town called Ratkovac. Serbian troops were stationed nearby during the war, and they mined the nearby woods. Marko and his team are here to clear the mines, a laborious task. You can see here what we've done already, the square meters we did yesterday, says Marko. Today we'll move on to this area. Everyone has to sign for the area they've checked for mines. Our signatures guarantee that an area is supposed to be safe. That's just 20 square meters per person per day. This armoured minesweeper is only available to help sometimes. Step by step, Marko covers the designated area. False alarm. Just a piece of metal, not a mine. Fear, he asks? Of course. I'm nervous when I'm standing in the minefield. But he says apart from minesweeping, he has few other options. I was a soldier myself during the war, he says, and afterwards there was no work for me. This was the only chance for work I had. It's been like this for 10 years. And at this stage I don't even think about doing anything else. He plans to continue searching for mines until he retires and hopes he doesn't get blown up. Stjepan Kriznik is the team leader. He was also in the Croatian army. They planted mines just like their Serb enemies, and occasionally he's even had to clear away his own mines. He has no illusions. I started doing this work in 1996, he says. The plan then was to clear the whole country of mines by 2010. In 2010, they said it would take until 2015. Now the government says it will be 2019. But no one here believes that. It could take 20 or 30 years, they say, because Croatia doesn't have the money to finance the work. We earn a monthly minimum of €385, says Sandra Jankovic. That goes up to €1,200 if the company has an actual contract. But that's the problem. The government doesn't allocate enough money for mine clearing. The budget is too small, and there's certainly enough work for us to do. Sandra Jankovic is one of only 2 female minesweepers in Croatia. She'd rather do the dangerous work than be without a job. The minesweepers hope that when Croatia joins the EU, more money will be made available from Brussels. The mines are preventing economic development, especially in the forestry sector. Marko's shift lasts for 5 hours. It's not possible to concentrate safely for any longer than that. They haven't found any mines today, but at least they've made a few more square meters safe. You can't guarantee 100% safety, says Marko. 90 or 95, yes, but not 100%. It's not possible. It's the forestry workers and farmers who face the remaining risk. But I don't think that's the only reason for the lack of progress here in the poorer parts of eastern Croatia. Near the forest where the minesweepers are working, I meet Sveto Babic. He's an official representative for the minority rights of the remaining Serbs still living in the region. Most of his relatives didn't return after the war. My uncle built that old yellow house there, he says. This one belongs to my brother. And this is where my father was born. It all belongs to the Babic family. But he's the only family member still living here. Sveto wants to sell the other properties, but there's a problem. It's here somewhere. The pipe leads into the septic tank, he says, but it's been covered over. Under here is a sewage pit. A neighbour built it illegally on my land. But the well is right here, he says. His Croatian neighbour didn't care about his property rights because he's a Serb, Sveto says. But with the neighbour's slurry pit right next to the well, no one wants to buy the property. I've reported it to the authorities, but there was no reaction. That was a few years ago. Maybe the time wasn't right back then, he says. Sveto Babic points to another Croatian neighbour with whom he's on friendly terms. He'd like to buy the property, but without the sewage pit under the grass. The neighbour urges Sveto Babic to go to court over the issue. These two at least get on well. I have no money for a court case, Babic says. If I go to court, I'd need several thousand euros, and it would take a long time. Only people with a lot of money can afford to sue these days. Legal costs in Croatia are more expensive than in Germany. Court cases last for years. The EU has been calling for improvements to the justice system for years, partially also as a way of dealing more effectively with inter-ethnic hatred. But there hasn't been much progress in rural areas. Croatia is about to join the EU. But my journey has shown me that the country is still suffering from the effects of the war. Even if things look differently back in Zagreb, a capital that is the equal of many other European cities.